Before I read this result, Dr. Phil said, "There's something everyone needs to know." Then he placed the envelope on the table and stood up. The studio fell completely silent. 200 people held their breath. The woman on the guest couch, Margaret, 58 years old, looked at the envelope like it contained either her salvation or her destruction. For 47 years she had been searching. For 47 years she had been told she was crazy. And now, in front of millions of viewers, the truth was about to be revealed. But to understand why this moment mattered so much, we need to go back to where it all began. Margaret was born in 1966 in a small town in rural Ohio. She was raised by loving parents, had 2 brothers, celebrated every birthday and holiday with her family. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But Margaret always felt something was wrong. She didn't look like anyone in her family. Her dark features stood out against their fair skin. Her mannerisms, her talents, her very essence seemed disconnected from the people she called family. When she was 11 years old, Margaret overheard a conversation that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Her aunt, whispering to a neighbor, said, "They never should have kept it from her." When Margaret asked her mother what that meant, she was told it was nothing. Just adult nonsense. But the seed of doubt had been planted. For decades, Margaret pushed the question down. She got married, had children, built a life. But the question never left her. Every time she looked in the mirror, she wondered, who am I really? Dr. Phil leaned forward in his chair, his eyes locked on Margaret. "You carried this secret for 47 years, he said. "And no one in your family would give you a straight answer?" Margaret nodded, tears already forming. "They told me I was imagining things. They told me I was being ungrateful. But I knew. In my heart, I always knew something wasn't right." 3 years ago, Margaret's mother passed away. While going through her belongings, Margaret found something hidden in the back of a closet. A small wooden box. Inside was a photograph of a baby she didn't recognize, a hospital bracelet with a different name, and a letter that had never been opened. The letter was addressed to her mother. The return address was from an adoption agency that had closed in 1972. Margaret's hands trembled as she held the photograph. The baby in the picture had dark hair and dark eyes. Just like her. She called her brothers immediately. Both denied knowing anything. Her father, now 86 and suffering from dementia, couldn't provide answers. Margaret was alone with a truth that no one would confirm. That's when she wrote to the Dr. Phil show. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Dr. Phil's team spent 3 months investigating Margaret's case. They tracked down records from the adoption agency. They located hospital documents from 1966. They found living relatives who had never been contacted. And they ordered a DNA test that would answer the question Margaret had been asking her entire life. Now, in the studio, the envelope sat on the table between them. But Dr. Phil wasn't ready to open it yet. "Margaret," he said, his voice softer now, "before we look at these results, I need you to understand something. Whatever is in this envelope doesn't change who you are. It doesn't erase the life you've lived, the children you've raised, the person you've become. Do you understand that?" Margaret nodded, but her eyes never left the envelope. Dr. Phil continued, "I've done this many times. I've seen families reunited. I've seen painful truths revealed. But I've never seen someone wait as long as you have for an answer. 47 years is a long time to carry a question." He paused mid-sentence. The studio went completely silent. Then Dr. Phil did something unexpected. He turned to his production team and said, "Stop the tape. I need a moment with Margaret off camera." The audience gasped. This wasn't part of the script. Dr. Phil stood up, walked to Margaret, and extended his hand. "Come with me," he said. She took his hand, confused but trusting, and they walked off stage together. Behind the scenes, in a private room away from the cameras, Dr. Phil sat across from Margaret. His voice was different now. Not the television host, but a man who had dedicated his life to helping people find truth and healing. "Margaret, I've read the results," he admitted. "I know what's in that envelope. And before we share it with the world, I need to know that you're ready. Because once this door opens, it can never be closed." Margaret looked at him, her eyes red from crying. "Dr. Phil, I've been ready for 47 years. Whatever the truth is, it's better than not knowing." Dr. Phil nodded slowly. "There's something else you need to know. We didn't just find DNA results. We found a person. Someone who has been looking for you too." Margaret's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" "You have a sister, Margaret. A biological sister. And she's here. She's been waiting backstage for the last hour." The world stopped spinning. Margaret couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what she had just heard. For 47 years, she thought she was alone in her search. She never imagined someone was searching for her too. They returned to the stage. The cameras were rolling again. The audience, unaware of what had happened backstage, watched in anticipation. Dr. Phil picked up the envelope, but this time, he didn't open it. "Margaret," he said, "I'm going to read the DNA results in a moment. But first, there's someone who wants to meet you." He turned toward the side of the stage. "Please welcome Linda." A woman emerged from backstage. She was 61 years old, with dark hair, dark eyes, and a face that looked remarkably like Margaret's. The audience gasped. Margaret stood up, her legs barely supporting her. The two women looked at each other across the stage, decades of separation dissolving in a single moment. Off camera, Dr. Phil made a choice no producer expected. He stepped back, giving the sisters space, and whispered to his team, "Let them have this moment. Don't cut away." Linda walked toward Margaret. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. 47 years of questions, of loneliness, of wondering, ended in a single embrace. The audience was weeping. Production assistants wiped their eyes. Even Dr. Phil, who had witnessed countless emotional moments in his career, felt his eyes grow moist. The sisters held each other for what felt like an eternity. When they finally separated, Linda spoke first. "I've been looking for you since I was 18 years old," she said. "Our mother, our biological mother, she gave us both up for adoption. Different families, different states. She was only 16. She didn't have a choice." Margaret shook her head in disbelief. "All this time, I thought I was alone." "You were never alone," Linda said. "I was always out there. I just couldn't find you." Dr. Phil stepped forward, the envelope still in his hand. "The DNA results confirm what we already know," he said. "Margaret and Linda share the same biological mother. They are full sisters, separated at birth in 1966. He opened the envelope and showed the results to the camera. The numbers, the percentages, the scientific proof of what the heart had always known. But the papers seemed almost irrelevant now. The real proof was standing on stage, two sisters holding hands, finally united. Dr. Phil addressed the audience. "What you're witnessing is something extraordinary. Two women who spent their entire lives feeling incomplete, feeling like something was missing, have finally found each other. This is why we do what we do. This is why truth matters." He turned back to Margaret and Linda. "There's more you need to know. Your biological mother. She's still alive." Both women froze. The revelation hit them like a wave. "She's 77 years old now," Dr. Phil continued. "She lives in California. And she has spent the last 60 years carrying the guilt of giving you both away. She wants to meet you, but only if you're ready." Margaret and Linda looked at each other. No words were needed. They nodded in unison. Dr. Phil smiled, a rare genuine smile that his audience seldom saw. "We're going to make that happen. But not today. Today is about you too. Today is about healing." He reached into his pocket and pulled out two small boxes. Inside each was a silver bracelet, identical in design, with an engraving that read, "Found." "I want you both to wear these," Dr. Phil said. "Not as a reminder of what you lost, but as a symbol of what you've gained. You found each other. After 47 years, you found each other." Margaret and Linda put on the bracelets. The studio audience rose to their feet, applauding through tears. The stage manager was crying. The camera operators were crying. In living rooms across America, millions of viewers were crying with them. But what happened next is something no one in the room, or watching at home, saw coming. Dr. Phil raised his hand, asking for silence. The applause faded. He walked to the edge of the stage, closer to the audience than he usually stood. "I've been doing this show for over 20 years, he said. "I've helped families reunite. I've exposed lies. I've confronted abusers. I've celebrated triumphs. But every once in a while, a story comes along that reminds me why I started this journey in the first place." He looked back at Margaret and Linda, still holding hands, still processing the magnitude of what had happened. These two women spent nearly half a century searching for answers. They were told they were crazy. They were told to let it go. They were told the past didn't matter. But they never gave up. And today, their persistence has been rewarded. Dr. Phil turned back to the audience. "Let this be a lesson to everyone watching at home. The truth matters. Your questions matter. Your feelings matter. Never let anyone tell you that your search for identity is unimportant. Never let anyone make you feel crazy for wanting to know who you are. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten." The show ended, but the story didn't. In the weeks that followed, Margaret and Linda flew to California together to meet their biological mother, Rose. The reunion was filmed for a follow-up episode that became one of the highest-rated specials in the show's history. Rose, now frail but sharp-minded, held her daughters for the first time since 1966. She explained through tears that she had been a teenager, poor, alone, and terrified. Her parents had forced her to give the babies away. She had spent 60 years wondering where they were, if they were happy, if they would ever forgive her. They did forgive her. In that moment, 3 generations of pain began to heal. Dr. Phil later spoke about this episode in interviews. "In all my years of television," he said, "I've never experienced anything quite like that day. Those 2 women taught me something important. They taught me that the human spirit is relentless. That the search for truth cannot be silenced. That family, real family, finds a way." Margaret and Linda now live 30 minutes apart. They see each other every week. Their children have become close. Their grandchildren play together on holidays. A family that never existed is now thriving, growing, building new memories to replace the decades that were stolen from them. Rose, their biological mother, passed away peacefully 18 months after the reunion. But those 18 months were filled with more love, more connection, more healing than she had experienced in the previous 60 years. On her final day, both daughters were by her side, holding her hands, telling her that she was forgiven, that she was loved, that she had given them the greatest gift of all, each other. At Rose's memorial service, Margaret stood up to speak. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. "I spent 47 years angry at a woman I never knew. I blamed her for my confusion, my pain, my endless questions. But now I understand. She was just a frightened girl who made an impossible choice. And because of that choice, I exist. Linda exists. Our children exist. Sometimes the hardest decisions create the most beautiful outcomes." Linda spoke next. "I used to think being adopted meant being abandoned. Dr. Phil taught me something different. Being adopted means being chosen twice. Once by the family who raised you, and once by the universe that always intended for you to find your way back home." The bracelets have become a symbol in the adoption community. Hundreds of viewers wrote to the show asking where they could get one. Dr. Phil's team created a foundation in Margaret and Linda's honor, dedicated to helping adoptees find their biological families. To date, The foundation has reunited over 300 families. And on both their wrists, Margaret and Linda still wear identical silver bracelets. A single word engraved. Found. Some stories are about pain. Some stories are about loss. But the best stories, the ones that stay with us forever, are about finding what was always meant to be found. Margaret and Linda's journey reminds us that it's never too late. That the truth, no matter how long it takes, will always find its way to the surface. And sometimes, all it takes is one envelope, one stage, and one man willing to stop the tape and say, "Before I read this result, there's something everyone needs to know."